Million-dollar deals on Shark Tank are a rarity, but business flops are very common. In today's video, we'll delve into the stories of entrepreneurs who were able to convince the sharks to invest over $1 million, only for their ventures to go bust. Andrew McMurray from New York entered the tank seeking $2.5 million for a 10% stake in his single-serve wine business, Zipz. If you're a regular Shark Tank viewer, you might recall the similar product Copa di Vino and its owner, James Martin, who famously pitched to the sharks twice and rejected all offers both times. Andrew demonstrated his product to the sharks, a sturdy wine glass-shaped plastic package with a recyclable plastic jacket that unzips to access the wine, hence the name Zipz. The sharks were impressed with Zipz's clever packaging, but couldn't help comparing it to their infamous Copa di Vino. Andrew clarified that he had the rights to use similar wine sealing technology, but the main difference was Zipz's superior shelf life thanks to its shrink-wrapped plastic jacket that provides UV protection. Kevin O'Leary, who owns his own vineyard and wines, was himself in the process of getting his brand into Costco, so he had a solid understanding of the wine business. He was less than impressed by Andrew's total sales of $650,000. Andrew hoped to get all 5 sharks on board and tried to appeal to Mark Cuban by mentioning that some of his other investors were also professional sports team owners. However, Mark hated the branding and was the first to be out. Although Kevin was the harshest, he made an offer of $2.5 million for a 10% stake, plus the option to buy another $2.5 million of equity at the same valuation in the event of an exit, all contingent on getting the wine into Costco. Robert Herjavec called it the best offer Kevin had ever made to anyone. Andrew accepted the offer, making it one of the biggest deals in Shark Tank history. Andrew McMurray appeared on Beyond the Tank a couple of years later to give an update on Zipz. It was revealed that Andrew was still working as the vice president of his in-law's successful wine retailer, suggesting that Zipz didn't have his full attention. Although he had gotten Zipz into several sports stadiums and brought in $2 million in sales, the business had not yet turned a profit. Andrew had not secured a wine partner to focus solely on selling the packaging technology. Kevin popped in for a visit and was not stoked about Zipz's slow progress. The business had about $4 million in funding left, which would keep them afloat for only 18 months at the current rate. They needed to produce over 1 million cases of single-serve wines to meet the demands of wineries, venues, and big box stores. But their current manufacturing equipment maxed out at just 400,000 cases a year. Kevin urged Andrew to get out of wine production and find a co-packer to fill large orders, get Zipz into a big box store, collect royalties, and actually grow the business. 5 major wine brands were shelf life testing Zipz, which alarmed Kevin as it indicated that the technology might not be good enough. Meanwhile, Kevin had packaged his own wines in Zipz to demonstrate its shelf stability and worth to other wine brands. 2 months later, Kevin returned to check on Andrew, and lo and behold, they were standing in a packaging facility with the capacity to produce 2 million cases of Zipz per year. Andrew had also secured a partnership with a major winery to take over the wine production side of things. The segment ended on a hopeful note, with Kevin and Andrew toasting to their success. Fast forward to 2021. If you were wondering what happened to the Costco contingency, Kevin revealed in an interview with WineSpectator.com that the deal fell through after he brought some Zipz samples to the superstore's head wine buyer, only for the wine to leak all over her purse. Consequently, Costco was not mentioned in the Beyond the Tank segment. Unfortunately for Zipz, the demand wasn't there, even after pivoting to a packaging and licensing business. Zipz's social media pages have been dormant since 2016, and its website no longer exists. Although Zipz failed, Andrew appears to still be working for his in-law's wine retailer. It seems unlikely Zipz will make a comeback, especially given the popularity of canned wine nowadays. Kane Bodium entered Shark Tank Australia in 2017, seeking $2.5 million for a 15% stake in his coffee pod business, iCapsulate. Visibly nervous, he explained that iCapsulate was the largest coffee pod company in the Southern Hemisphere, producing 35 million capsules annually, resulting in $4 million in sales within just 18 months. Kane claimed he had contracts with several of Australia's largest coffee brands and mentioned the company owned $16 million worth of equipment. He also announced plans to launch the world's first biodegradable, hermetically sealed capsule. So the question was, what did he need from the Sharks? Kane explained he had turned down a $25 million buyout offer, believing in the greater potential of his business, and had aspirations to expand to the US. The Sharks made various offers. Andrew Banks proposed $2.5 million for a 25% stake. Glenn Richards offered $2.5 million for a 40% stake, and Naomi Simpson offered $2.5 million for a 33.3% stake. Steve Baxter, however, called bull on Kane's numbers and didn't believe that inferior coffee pods could cost more to produce, as Kane had claimed. After a bit of consideration and negotiation, Kane struck a deal with Andrew Banks for a $2.5 million investment for a 22.5% stake, making it the biggest deal in Shark Tank Australia history. The deal received significant media coverage in Australia, but soon after the episode aired, the heads of the 3 largest coffee pod manufacturers in Australia released a joint letter questioning some of the claims that Kane had made on Shark Tank. Our industry is small here in Australia, with only 4 manufacturers of significant size: Mad Coffee Capsules, Coffee Caps, Pod Pack, and iCapsulate, the letter said. All 4 of us had made significant capital investments in the millions of dollars, but only 3 of us have been successful in winning significant contracts. The odd one out is Kane Bodium of iCapsulate. In fact, we are not aware of a single major retail store in Australia from which a customer can purchase coffee capsules packed by iCapsulate. In our opinion, Andrew Banks was taken hook, line, and sinker. Kane dismissed the letter as jealousy from his competitors and refused to disclose the brands he had contracts with, citing client confidentiality. Then, Kane's past legal battle with Mad Coffee Capsules, his competitor and former employer, resurfaced. Kane had stated on his Facebook and LinkedIn pages that he established and ran Mad Coffee Capsules, which a Sydney court ruled to be false and misleading claims. The court forbade him from making any more false statements about the company and sharing its secrets. Kane insisted it was a smear campaign and explained that he chose not to defend the case as it was a simple waste of money. In response to the controversy, Andrew Banks told news.com.au he frankly didn't take too much notice of all the squabbling. Competitors will always complain about other competitors, he said. Despite his nonchalance, Andrew spent over a year on due diligence checks, and in March 2018, he revealed that the deal did not go through. Andrew provided a statement. It didn't go because on the show, you'll remember they said, "We are the exclusive producers of biodegradable coffee pods, and the CSIRO will validate that soon." And guess what? They didn't, and they aren't. Kane disputed Andrew's claims and asserted that he did have all the certifications for his biodegradable pods, and that it was actually an internal decision not to proceed with the deal due to lack of communication with Andrew's camp. Kane also downplayed the significance of Andrew's investment. In the whole big scheme of what we're doing, if you look at $2.5 million, it's barely a deposit on new machinery, he said. Bit of an odd thing to say, seeing as he was the one who went into the tank asking for exactly $2.5 million. Things fell apart pretty quickly after that, and in September 2018, iCapsulate collapsed into voluntary administration as a result of a shareholder and director dispute. A publicly available report lodged with the corporate regulator revealed many issues within the company, including disputes over ownership of equipment and questionable mortgage agreements, resulting in one of its directors, furniture mogul Peter Draper, withdrawing his financial support. iCapsulate's website is now gone, though Kane appears to still be working in the coffee industry. Jeff Stroop from Arkansas had been a firefighter for 15 years. In his line of work, mere seconds can make a difference between life and death, which fueled his passion for his invention, the Hyconn. The Quick Connect unit attaches a hose to a fire hydrant with a single twist, shaving up to 30 seconds off the process and allowing water to reach the scene of the fire faster. Jeff sought $500,000 for 40% of his company on Shark Tank. Jeff's demonstration of the Hyconn was convincing, but the Sharks initially had reservations about the business, particularly regarding whether fire stations could afford the product. However, their interest peaked when Jeff pulled out a smaller plastic version for household garden hoses, for which he also held the patents. Mark Cuban offered $1.25 million for the entire company, plus a 3-year employment agreement at $100,000 per year, along with a future royalty. Kevin O'Leary made a competing offer to buy the entirety of the garden hose part of the business for $500K plus a 3% royalty in perpetuity. Jeff leaned towards Mark's offer, but countered with a 7.5% royalty. Mark agreed, and they sealed the deal. Kevin lamented that Mark's deal would kill Jeff's passion for fire safety and saving lives. Despite the historic deal, Hyconn did not become a glittering success story. Jeff wrote a Facebook post in March 2012 and alleged that Mark backed out of the deal in the weeks following the episode's filming. Mark wanted to license the Hyconn design to another company rather than get involved in the manufacturing side of things, which Jeff was passionate about. They couldn't reconcile their differences, and the deal fell through. Jeff accused Mark of letting his ego get in the way and expressed regret for not partnering with Kevin or Robert. Without any Hyconn products ready for the episode's airing and reruns, Jeff couldn't fulfill any orders. The company's social media went quiet, and although they had products listed on their website and Amazon, nothing was ever available for sale. Then in early 2024, Hyconn re-emerged with a fresh new logo and website. It had been nearly a decade, and in that time, Jeff had never given up, and he achieved his goal of manufacturing Hyconn in his home state of Arkansas. Jeff and his team attended the 2024 FDIC International Annual Firefighting Convention in April and was able to demonstrate the Hyconn in person to countless firefighters, though it's unclear how many orders that translated to. Ethan Tucker from Vermont and singer Pat Boone entered the tank seeking $5 million for a 50% stake in their revolutionary pollutionless cars. However, they unveiled not some state-of-the-art vehicle, but a cardboard cutout of a little car that runs on compressed air. Funnily enough, it was called the Airpod. Robert Herjavec, clearly a Pat Boone fan, was curious why they didn't bring the prototype. Pat explained that the car was only just starting to move into production in Europe and they didn't have a prototype in the US. The parent company, MDI in France, held the patents and prototypes, while Zero Pollution Motors would become the US dealership. Ethan and Pat had purchased the rights to produce the car in the US and needed $5 million to build the first manufacturing plant in Hawaii. Their plan involved building small regional factories throughout the US to make and sell the Airpod locally, known as nanofactories. However, if a shark were to invest, they would only own 50% of cars in Hawaii, and cars made in Hawaii would be exclusive to that territory. The sharks were quick to point out the flaws in this strategy, warning that if successful, investors with deeper pockets might buy up the rights for the rest of the country. Kevin advised that they needed to acquire a national license, to which Ethan retorted,
"Do you have $200 million you'd like to plop down for that?"
As for the car's specs, it can reach a top speed of 50 miles per hour, refill in just 4 minutes with an air compressor at any petrol station, or plug into any outlet and charge for 4 hours for the motor to compress the air. When fully charged, the Airpod could run for 100 miles, and most appealing, the car only cost $10,000. However, they couldn't answer Laurie's question regarding safety and crash testing, as there were only 3 prototypes in the world and they didn't want to crash any of them. For Mark, Daymond, Laurie and Kevin, it was simply too early to invest and they were out. Robert, the car enthusiast of the panel, was interested though. Robert was willing to do the $5 million for 50%, contingent on being able to meet with MDI to negotiate a nationwide distribution deal. Seeing as our roads have not been overrun by these air-powered cars, you can probably guess the outcome of Zero Pollution Motors. In September 2015, the company's official Facebook page revealed that Robert had backed out of the deal and they were now looking for other investors. Their last Facebook post was in 2018, but their website remains active, albeit outdated, claiming US buyers would receive their cars by mid-2024. Ethan shared the full story about what happened on Shark Tank in a 2020 interview with StarterStory.com. He revealed that they pitched with a cardboard cutout because their AirPods inventor was scared the prototype would be scrutinized or copied if shipped in from France. Ethan said he was surprised they got through the audition process to get on Shark Tank, and even more surprised when Robert Herjavec actually agreed to do the $5 million deal. Their goal had just been to use the TV exposure to show the world the new technology. After the cameras stopped rolling, Ethan said that Robert never made good on his visit to MDI in France and instead went on Dancing with the Stars, then eventually backed out of the deal. Although a few US mayors expressed interest in hosting the first Airpod factory in their city, no factories have been built. The company is not fully funded and is still seeking investors. Charles Michael Yim captivated all the sharks with his strong pitch for the Breathometer. It was essentially a pocket-sized device that could plug into your smartphone. The user would simply breathe into the device and the mobile app would display their blood alcohol content level, then let them know if they were safe to drive. The sharks recognized the potential in the product and the impact it could have to make roads safer. Charles had already invested $50,000 of his own money, generated $140,000 via Indiegogo, and secured $500,000 from other angel investors. But his ultimate goal was for all the sharks to come in and invest a total of $1 million. Mark Cuban, who already owned a company specializing in sensor technology, initially refused to work with the others. After an intense negotiation, Charles accepted a history-making offer, $500,000 from Mark Cuban for 15% of the company, and another $500,000 from the 4 other sharks for a combined 15%. In total, the deal was $1 million for 30% of Breathometer. After the episode aired, Breathometer's sales skyrocketed to $20 million thanks to publicity from the show. The company struggled to meet the demand, but eventually fulfilled the orders over 6 months. Breathometer then released 2 new products, Breeze, a Bluetooth version of the original device, as well as Mint, which measured bacteria levels in the mouth. Breathometer even partnered with FLOPS, a major oral healthcare company, to bring the products to the retail market. Breathometer was advertised as a law enforcement grade device to help people determine whether or not it was safe for them to drive after drinking. However, there were accuracy issues from the very start. In 2014, the company attempted to quietly cover up the problem by updating the app to overestimate results, but this didn't actually solve the accuracy issue. By 2015, tests showed that ambient humidity and temperature affected results, and it was also discovered that the device's sensor deteriorated over time. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, took notice, and in October 2016, Breathometer updated its app to permanently disable the blood alcohol content measuring feature. In May 2016, Kevin O'Leary revisited Breathometer on Beyond the Tank. Charles claimed that the company was now worth $50 million, but the sharks were yet to see a return on their investment. The app had no longer measured blood alcohol content, and the company had shifted its focus to oral healthcare. Kevin was not impressed. In January 2017, the FTC filed a complaint against Breathometer, alleging false or unsubstantiated representation about the accuracy of the devices and falsely claimed to have undergone rigorous government lab-grade tests. Breathometer reached a settlement with the FTC and were ordered to issue full refunds to any customers who requested them. In July 2022, Mark Cuban told Full Send Podcast that Breathometer was his worst Shark Tank investment. He claimed Charles had essentially spent the money partying in Bora Bora and Las Vegas instead of working on growing his company. Today, Breathometer no longer exists, and none of the sharks made any of their money back.
But like the guy, Charles, I look at his Instagram and he'd be in Bora Bora. And I'd text him like, what the fuck are you doing? You're supposed to be working. Oh no, I'm networking. Next thing you know, all the money's gone. Yeah, so that was my biggest beating.
Former lawyers from Boston, Bradford Scudder and Rob Dickens, entered the tank seeking $1 million for a 10% stake in their company, Rugged Maniac. They organized 5K obstacle course races in 20 cities all over the USA. What set them apart from other obstacle race competitors was their shorter race with more obstacles, 25 in total, including climbing over shipping containers, sliding down 100-foot water slides, crawling through mud tunnels, and even jumping through fire. Their event was more about fun and also featured a festival with plenty of food and alcohol on offer. When asked what they planned to do with the $1 million investment, Brad made a massive blunder and let slip that they had reinvested their $1 million profit into their Running of the Bulls tomato throwing festival. The Sharks were not impressed when it was revealed that the Bull event was not a part of the deal. It was obvious from Bradford's body language that they hadn't intended to disclose their Bull Run business that early in the pitch, if at all. They told the Sharks it would cost an additional $2 million for the Bull Run company, totaling $3 million for 10% of both companies. The Sharks gave the entrepreneurs an earful about keeping the businesses separate, with Mark warning he could sue them for conflict of interest, particularly because they had valued the Bull Run business at twice the value of the Obstacle Run. Daymond accused them of having an agenda by keeping the Bull Run business separate and said he wouldn't trust them. Barbara similarly accused them of being untrustworthy. Robert offered $1.5 million for 25% of both businesses combined. Kevin thought that Robert's offer was too high and offered to go in 50-50 with Robert for 33% or 1/3 of the combined businesses. Robert accepted, effectively lowering the valuation. Mark then offered $1.5 million for 25% of both businesses combined, which matched Robert's original offer. For some reason, the entrepreneurs felt there was something to discuss and left the room to speak privately. They returned and countered Mark with $1.75 million for 25%, which Mark accepted. In an update segment a couple of years later, the Rugged Maniac founders returned to share how their business was going. Sales had grown from $4.2 million to $10.5 million, and they had expanded to larger offices with over 20 employees. Rugged Maniac continued to be a popular event over the next few years, expanding to 60 races across North America, with over 150,000 participants annually. They nabbed sponsorships from Men's Health and Women's Health magazines and partnered with the American Cancer Society. In August 2018, the events company Gatehouse Live acquired an 80% stake in Rugged for $10.4 million. This company was under the umbrella of the newspaper conglomerate New Media Investment Group, which had expanded to events due to declines in ad sales in local newspapers. Mark Cuban cashed out and sold his entire 25% stake, while the original founders, Brad Scudder and Rob Dickens, stayed on. In June 2021, Rugged Racers merged with the Chicago-based Ram Racing Company and became Ventures Endurance, now under the USA Today Network Ventures, which is under Gannett Co., following its merger with Gatehouse, and all still falls under New Media Investment Group. Point is, there was a whole lot of corporate changing of hands, and in February 2024, Rugged Maniac suddenly shut down without any warning. All races for the year were abruptly cancelled and refunds were issued, much to the dismay of many loyal Mud Run fans.